quarter, dude. She's down.
Let's go.
Dude, I just shot a deer of a lifetime.
Freaking smoked him.
One with nature, and if you're a believer, one with God.
Definitely gets your heart pumping. Boy, you are in trouble.
Fall Obsession Podcast.
Turkey season is in full swing here at Fall Obsession, and we have hit the ground running. There's also still time for our listeners to sign up for our turkey hunt competition, and we will hit that here in a moment. I'm Sam with Fall Obsession, your podcast host this week, and we are here to talk some turkey. Our podcast is driven by Ridge Rock Hunt Company. We'll give them a shout out at the end. I'm on here with two other folks who recently had some great success in the turkey woods. Back on the podcast, regular face at this point with us, our staff manager, Todd Sellen. Welcome back, Todd.
Hey, Sam. Good to see you again, man.
You too, man.
Like I said, world tour. We're here in Gulf Shores.
I know, man. You just keep making the rounds. It's awesome to see. And then our other guest, this is her first time joining us on Fall Obsession Podcast, one of our field staffers from Georgia. Kendra, welcome to the podcast.
I appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you on. So you guys teamed up. You're from two different states. Kendra's from the Southeast. Todd, you're from the Midwest. Teamed up in this year's Fall Obsession Turkey Hunt Competition. And I believe, Todd, in a recent podcast before you left for this trip, you were talking about kind of the anticipation for this hunt. You were excited about it. But this hunt revealed some awesome success. And just the little bits and pieces I've heard, there was even some competing factors with some weather and some other variables that, might not have been anticipated beforehand. But anyway, we want to dive in. We want to get into this story and talk about what y'all had out there in the Southeast. So, Todd, I'll let you kind of kick it off and kind of recap just this opportunity that you had to go down there and hunt with Kendra.
So I want to start by saying, I just mentioned this to Heather today. Man, our staffers are some of the most talented staffers that we get on board because, we've had Andy out with the snow goose and just helping us understand what snow goose hunting is about. And Kendra, when she threw this opportunity out to come down and turkey hunt in Georgia, like I said just a few minutes ago, she's a world-class caller. Oh my gosh, I've never had this success with the decoy, and she sounded like a whole flock of turkeys when she was calling in. And so I was just in awe listening to her, all of her knowledge about turkeys, and we hunted Eastern turkeys. Just the knowledge that she was sharing with us, and just seeing her techniques and calling turkeys in. Like I said, I was just in awe. And I learned a lot, and me sharing what I learned with Heather. She's already learned quite a bit on how to hunt turkeys. And so that was a lot of fun for us. And really, this hunt came about. Kendra threw out to the group that if anybody wanted to come down and hunt turkeys, feel free. I'm offering a chance. I'll be the caller. You guys be the hunters. And so we always come down to Gulf Shores, Alabama, which is where I'm at right now, for our spring break. And so we got in touch with Kendra and say, how close to Alabama are you? We don't want to make it a 20+ hour trip to get to Gulf Shores. You know what I mean? Right. But what we found, it wasn't very far off our path. And so we were able to hook up with Kendra, and that's how this hunt came about. And then as we started planning it, we started talking about the turkey competition, and that's when we decided, hey, let's see if we can be partners in this. Let's see, because one of the stipulations is we have to hunt together. And so that's why I got a hold of you, Sam. And you said, yeah, absolutely. Go ahead. Try it. Yeah,
go for it.
And so, yeah, absolutely. And it worked out.
Awesome.
Worked out perfect.
So Kendra, this guy from Michigan he's coming down here to randomly hunt turkeys with you. What kind of thought process as somebody hosting this hunt, if you will, what kind of thought process or planning are you thinking ahead of time as you're preparing for this hunt?
Well, when he gave me the dates in Georgia, we have a youth week, and then we have private land and then public land. And so he gave me the dates, which was April 1st, April Fool's Day. And I thought, I'm going to have to find some private land to carry him on it. And I knew, don't just try one place. I need to have backup. So I wanted to prepare for, 3 places. And he said if if it was a problem with the schedule, they could swing back through on their way back to Michigan. And I thought, well, if that's true, then we might do some public land because it was going to open the 8th. But I knew I was going to have to look for private land. So I started, calling, and people was like, hey, can I hunt your place? This is what I need to get, a turkey killed. I want to get some footage of it. And you'd be surprised how many people will say yes whenever they think they're going to get something on film. So it worked out good. I had a niece that got some property that said yes, and then I called in a favor with a guy that I had done favors for in the past. I was like, look, I really need to get on a bird, so if plan A fails, I need plan B. Can I go here? And so I had 3 places set up, but I thought this is going to be a lot of pressure. Opening day, it's already been hit by the youth. There's people already starting to hunt, so I got out and did a little scouting on a couple. I had already looked at one place prior. Me and Ethan had scouted, and we'd seen 4 big birds and roosted them. They were already with hens. And then one place I knew from past that, pretty good chance of turkeys on it, but the third choice was my niece's, and I had went there one time last year, saw 1 turkey, and never saw another turkey. Where is where we ended up killing a turkey at.
2 turkeys.
Yeah, 2 turkeys.
A 20-minute period.
Yeah,
Wow.
So that was a big part of the story. So we were talking about creating a storyboard. That it was more than just a turkey hunt. It turned into a pretty unique story. So.
Yeah, and see, my son, his friend was coming up from South Carolina. He's never killed a bird before. And whenever Todd asked me, did I have a team member for the turkey competition, I said, well, I was going to team up my son, but he's kind of dissed me, and he wants to go with his friends. So I was like, yeah, I'll be your team member. And so it got a little competition between me and my son. Then I was like, okay, we're going to get the bird first. That's what, so. But yeah, it turned out a really good hunt. I mean, it surprised me, 2 birds on opening day in what, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
We had to go through tornado watch at 4:30, 4 o'clock. I'm waking up and it's weather alert's going off. There's tornado watch. So I text Ethan and I said, hey, we're under tornado watch. He goes, it's still turkey season, Mom. I said, I know. Put my boots on.
That's commitment right there. So I never ask anybody to give up, their hunting spots or where they're at specifically or anything like that. But it sounds like from the picture you're painting that just the area in general that y'all are going gets worn out pretty heavily by turkey hunters. So
I think I heard someone say today, because we have a management area near us that's publicized quite a bit, and it's been put like in the top 10 of killed birds.
Wow.
So there's been a lot of out-of-staters come in the last few years, and it makes it tougher and tougher to get on a bird and get one.
Yeah.
So two things that really stuck out to me. Kendra made a couple comments. Number one being, you'd be surprised on how many people would let you hunt on the land as soon as you mentioned fall obsession and what we're about. So that was just a kind of like a proud papa moment, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just kind of like, man, we're out there and we're doing our good thing, And then number 2, how hard it is to harvest a bird on the very first day of private land. She said that a couple times, and we ended up putting 2 birds down on that first day within a couple, 20 minutes or so. So
yeah, I think I'd even told you afterwards. I said, y'all don't realize how what we've done here. We got not only 1 bird, we had 2 birds, and it was opening day. I said that's almost unheard of. I've only killed a bird on opening day in Georgia once, and that was the very first day I'd ever turkey hunt in Georgia, and never been able to do it again.
Wow. So Todd, take us into this hunt from your perspective and how the hunt and the events transpired.
So as I mentioned, the hunt came about when Kendra offered her property, to take people out, and she would be the caller, and so on and so forth. Kendra met us the night before. We kind of put a game plan together. We knew that there were storms going to roll in overnight, and we even talked about, hey, we want to go to her niece's property. However, at her niece's property, there were 2 creek crossings that we had to go across. The first one was shallow. The second one we didn't really know about because it was already pretty high that Friday before. And again, with the storms coming in the night after, that following night, we didn't know if we'd be able to get across. And so she did say that she had a secondary property that we could go to if that's the case, and we'd hunt that property. So sure enough, 5:30 in the morning, Kendra meets us at the hotel. I step outside. It's pouring buckets. It's lightning. It's storming like crazy. And I'm thinking, it's pretty much the same thing Ethan said. You know what? It's turkey season. And actually, the water doesn't feel that cold. In Michigan, it rains this time of year. It's pretty cold.
Yeah.
But in Georgia, it was actually pretty warm. I'm thinking, you know what? I can handle this. Whatever. I don't care.
Yeah,
if
I'm
I
here
get
to
soaked,
hunt.
it's going to be a warm soaking. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And so we hopped in Kendra's truck. We got loaded up, went to her niece's property. Still pouring. We get across the first creek, no problem at all. We get to the second creek, and it's actually pretty flooded. Kendra says, I think I can make it across, but I'm not real sure. And I said to Kendra, we can make it across, but it's supposed to rain till at least 9 or 9:30. What's going to happen once we get across? Are we going to be able to get back?
We'll stay there for a while.
We'll be there for a while. Yep. And she's like, well, it's your call. What do you want to do? And I said, well, if you have a secondary place, let's play it safe and then just kind of go by what happens with the weather later on. And she goes, okay, let's go to the other property. So we go to the other property. By the time we get to the other property, the rain has stopped, and it's just lightning and thundering and no big deal. So we sat in the truck just for a little bit. And then just before daylight, we get out and we walk out to our spots and then get settled in our spots. And like I said, at that time, it stopped raining, stopped thundering and lightning. Perfect morning. No wind at that point.
It was calm then, yeah.
Yeah. And so Kendra starts doing her thing and starts calling. And then, things start happening. You can hear Tom's gobbling way off in the distance. And they never showed their face.
No, they didn't want
it. They responded, though.
Yeah.
And so at that point, I'm thinking, all right. And like I said, Kendra sounded like she was a whole flock of hens in the field. And I'm sure she'll talk about the techniques that she was using and the calls that she was using. But I know she had a mouth diaphragm, and she had one of the discs, the board scratch discs. And she sounded just like a whole flock of hens. And you could hear them gobbling way off in the background, way off in the distance. And I think at some point, we heard the second one, and then shortly after I go to Kendra, I was like, hey, what's that out in the field?
Yeah.
Is that a coyote?
Yeah.
Is that a deer? What is that? She's like, I can't see the tree in front of me. And then so she kind of peeks around the tree. She's like, oh, that's an armadillo. Armadillo. How good do armadillos taste? Can I use it with a turkey tag?
I tossed some binoculars. I said, you ever seen an armadillo?
I was like, no, I haven't seen an armadillo. And she said it was what, a possum and a soft shell?
We call them possum on half shells down here.
There you go. You don't have armadillos in Michigan, Todd?
We don't have in the zoo. At the zoo, yeah. I walk in there with a 12 gauge, they might frown upon that.
We got them everywhere down here.
Yeah, we don't have armadillos in Michigan. We got the actual possums without the half shell.
Yours have hair on them.
Yes, yeah. Ones that look like kitties sometimes. So yeah, we get through the morning, and after we see the armadillo, we actually had a hen. Kendra's like, here going, kind of like what you did, Sam, when we saw the pigs.
Yeah.
I was like, hey,
don't move.
Left.
And then she was like, so I turned, I'm like real slow. There's a hen, 20 yards when I first saw it, probably about 20 yards behind us. And it got to probably between 5 and 10 yards, and then just kind of worked its way back. But we were hoping there's a tom following her, and there wasn't. So
I didn't have decoys out then. No, we didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I didn't put decoys out then. We had a a branch in front of us, which I knew they would cross it. It wasn't too deep because me and Ethan had saw the 4 big toms like a couple of weeks before just hop right across that creek. So I knew it wasn't going to be a problem. But I held back on the decoys. I got a special decoy named Mayhem.
He worked like a charm too.
Yeah. Ethan said, "Why are you going to call him Mayhem?" I said, "'Cause he's going to cause problems in the turkey world."
There you go.
Yep. So then after that, we just walked the property a little bit to see if we could walk up on one of the toms that were responding to us, and really didn't see any more. We did see one hen. We think it was the same hen that was behind us. Ended up crossing in front of us as we get closer to the truck, but. At that point, we got in the truck, and then Kendra called Ethan to see how they did. And so Ethan was all fired up because they actually had a pretty decent tom come in, right?
Yeah. And theirs got busted away because the deer run between them and blowed the turkey out. So they didn't get a shot at it.
But, he went out and called and got them in. So we decided to come up with a game plan of just kind of teaming up, the 4 of us, and going to her niece's property. And so Kendra and I went back there, crossed the first creek, no problem. Got to the second creek, and you can tell that it had gone down quite a bit from the morning. And sure enough, we get across it, no big deal. And then we get set up. And so we're just kind of waiting for Ethan and Aaron to get there. And as we're sitting there, Kendra decides to, or Ethan pulls up, and Kendra calls Ethan and says, "Hey, what's your plan on crossing the creek?" And so you can tell him about the phone call.
Yeah, he's like, "Well, I can walk across it." He goes, "My truck won't go across." And I was like, "You're in a Chevrolet. I'm in a Toyota. You're just, you got a bigger truck." He's like, "Well, I can walk across it." And I said, "I wouldn't try it." I said, "It's kind of swift." And I said, "You want me to come pick you up?" And he said, "Sure." So I go back across. I load him and Aaron in his gear, and Ethan has his daughter with him, bring them back across. And I was like, we're a little more weighted down. And I called Todd. I said, "Hey, you might want this on video." I realized how deep it really was. And when we got to the side, he goes, "You know how deep that was?" He goes, "Your bumper was under the water."
Wow.
That deep.
They made it across though, so
that's good. Yeah, I can little rabbit trail. I can remember one deer that I killed. My dad and I had a place that we hunted when it was only one season that we were out this place in particular, but there was one stand that I really wanted to hunt it, but it was always flooded. Like it was this creek always flooded, and it was knee to waist deep water depending on where you were the whole way back to the stand from the main road. And we had another guy out there that loaned me a 4-wheeler for one evening. That's the reason I never hunted, because I didn't have a way to get back there. And I remember pulling up to the path to go back there and just seeing it flooded, and kind of the same mentality. I was like, well, I'm here to hunt, So I had water about up to my knees, coming up over the wheels of that 4-wheeler, and just kept plugging away through that water for a couple hundred yards, just following the road, making turns and stuff, and made it to that stand, killed a deer that night. So
there you go.
Yeah. Sometimes I guess the lesson is sometimes when you got to go through some water, it's rewarding. So
yeah, for sure. Hard work pays off. Yeah. Yep. So so we get out there, and then Ethan and Aaron come out, and then we come up with a game plan. Kendra led us to a place where she had seen a bunch of tracks and scouted the night before. And at this time, the wind really starts picking up. I mean, you're talking gusts at 50, 60 miles an hour, right?
Yeah.
And it was consistent, probably at about 30 miles an hour.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really, really windy. And so one thing I learned was that Kendra said, "So tell us about turkey hunting on a windy day." And I never knew this.
Yeah, so I told him, I said, days when it's really windy like that, or days where it's raining a lot, turkeys are going to go hit the field because they want to be able to see what's coming towards them because they're not going to be able to hear it. So I told him that if we get, position ourselves and put the decoys out where we can pull them they're naturally going to come to the field. We're already going to be in a place they're going to feel comfortable that we'd have a better chance of shooting a turkey.
Yeah.
And in my mind, as a deer hunter, I'm thinking it's windy. It's a little wet. Deer are just gonna hunker down and wait for the wind to subside, you know.
Yeah.
And so and that's why I've always even turkey hunted back in Michigan. I never knew this. Like I said, I didn't know that they're more active. Makes complete sense. That's their biggest defense is their eyesight. You know what I mean? So that makes complete sense to me that they want to be out in the wide open where they can see everything.
Yeah.
Right.
Whereas the deer, deer uses every sense, sight, hearing, smell, and their senses are going crazy when it's windy like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, this made complete sense to me. So Kendra and Ethan went out and started setting up the decoys. She put Mayhem out, and she put so she had a strutting tom. That's her Mayhem.
Yeah.
And
had a little lay in hand and lay in front of them. And so I wanted to make it look as real as it could. Give another tom, like, well, I'm going to have to go beat this one up because I want that hand.
Yeah.
And so the area we're in, you said they just did some construction, or they did some, tearing down some trees and stuff like that, right? Because they flood it for duck season, right?
Yeah, they done a lot of dozer work and made it so they duck hunt there. So they flood it and have a pond. And so we were set up in a log jam that they pushed the trees up against a swampy area. And so I let Todd pick out, exactly where we was going to set in this tree line where the log jam was at. And I set the decoys out on the little levee of their pond, their duck pond, but there wasn't any water out there. It was all dirt.
So we're the spot we picked out to hunt out of was an area where there's a bunch of fallen timber, and it looked like it was already a blind setup because there was some fallen timber, some weeds across, but there's like a little cockpit area already just naturally formed in there. So I go to Kendra, what if we go in there and just sit on a couple of those logs in there, clear some of that brush out. We can go in there and sit on those logs, and the rest of the timber will conceal us. She's like, I think that's a great plan. So sure enough, it was what, 20 yards away from the decoys?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah, it was perfect.
Yeah, we could see the whole area out in front of us and kind of watch the position we were in, the mature timbers with the logs laid up. There was a road bed on each side that come out to this open, duck pond that was now drained. So we were set up perfect. If they were to come to the right or the left of us out in this open field, we were positioned just perfect to cut them off.
Awesome.
So in front of us, we had open field, and then 300 or 400 yards away was a tree line?
Yeah, and on the other side of that tree line was a cow pasture, which the birds love to hang out in cow pastures.
And then there was a pinch point. So tree line that kind of went like this, wrapped around, and then a pinch point where you could see into that cow pasture, and then more tree line, and then it kind of cut out a little bit, and then tree line back. So Ethan and Aaron so we set up on the front field. Ethan and Aaron actually went to, I don't even know what direction that was, north, south, I don't know.
It was
went to our left.
west. They went to the west of us.
Went to the west of us and set up in that tree line into the woods to the west of us. And so in my mind, I'm looking at this, I'm like, okay, perfect scenario would be we see turkeys coming from the cow pasture 300 or 400 yards away. We see them strutting. They come right into the decoy. We get a crack at them. And it's kind of how it went.
Yeah. I knew they would come from the left because to the right of us was the creek we crossed, and it's a pretty wide, deep creek. So I knew they wasn't going to fly across it. So that basically they were going to come to our left. I set it up and let Todd, pick the blind spot, but I was trying to funnel it right to where we were going to be sitting.
So Kendra's doing her thing. She's calling, and you can hear Ethan off in the distance calling. So they were kind of playing off each other.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
We were kind of battling each other.
I was going to say either playing off each other or competing. Tom's got to choose.
I think we were competing.
So sure enough, we hear gobbles. We start hearing gobbles off to our right. We start hearing gobbles off to where Ethan is sitting. And Kendra's like, they're going to come up one of these trails. We get trails on both sides of us. They're going to come from behind up one of these trails. So we just got to pay attention. And then as we're sitting there and she's calling, I happen to look toward that open field, and I see this tom strutting. I'm like, Kendra.
I felt the tap on the arm. Like, a tap on the arm. I turned around. I thought it was going to be armadillo again.
I'm pulling out every gun that I can find for this.
He pulled off the side, and I'm like, ooh, I got to keep this one on a string.
So this Tom keeps just strutting, but he's not making a straight line to us. He's kind of weaving.
Yeah.
And I think that he was responding to both calls.
Yeah.
You know?
I knew he was, because it seemed like Ethan's calling got more progressive, and I thought, man, he's trying to call his bird off us.
He's trying to poach my bird.
I can't let that happen. But we had Mayhem, which the wind blowing Mayhem, it was like a Tom strutting. It just kept turning, and I mean, it looked perfect. It was enticing. Yeah.
Very much so, because he was just strutting, and he was actually responding to one of the calls because you could see him gobbling, but the wind was blowing so hard that you couldn't hear him.
Yeah.
You could see him, he would strut, and all of a sudden he would, stick his neck out, and you could see him gobbling, and then start strutting again, and
then a little muffled gobble, and I'm like, I kept looking. I was like, did he just gobble?
So then he comes all the way across the field to the 2-track that we thought that they would come up from, which is where we walked to the field. And then he turned right towards us, started walking right up a levee. And at that point, he was kind of half strutted, but he picked up his pace a little bit, because at that point he was ready to go. He was ready to go to battle with Mayhem.
Yeah. I was out, there was a big oak tree to the Todd's left. And so I would see the Tom strutting, and then all of a sudden he'd get behind this oak tree. So I'd have to lean way back, and I'm trying to, video him at the same time with a mouth call in. And I have a pot call, like a crystal call, sitting on my leg, trying to work the camera and mouth call at the same time.
Holy smokes.
See, like I said, Kendra is very talented. We have a lot of talented staffers here at Fall Obsession, and she just exemplified that, on this hunt. And there's actually one time that she said, Todd, you might have to swing your gun way to the left, because it looked like he was going to go down that 2-track. Yeah. 2-track was what, a 30-yard shot maybe?
Yeah.
And so in my mind, I'm thinking, yep, I'm probably going to have to swing around, and because that's my luck. It's not going to set up perfectly like in my mind. That's, it's not going to play out that way.
Right.
But as luck would have it, it ended up turning and coming right down the levee, right to the decoy. And like I said, he was half strut at that point, and he got to about maybe 20 yards from Mayhem, and then just picked up the speed and just. And so I saw him pick up the speed, and I'm thinking, okay, because I had brush and I had trees to my left. I thought as soon as he clears that and he gets on my bead, I'm pulling the trigger, because you know what I mean. Like I said, he picked up the speed and he was ready to go. So again, as soon as he got on my bead, I pulled my trigger and it's dropped right there.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, he didn't flop or anything. It was just like, bam, he hit the ground.
Wow.
He was down. So, I was kind of wanting to see the fight between him and Mayhem. I was anticipating.
So
saved her some money.
Yeah.
Didn't have to get another one. So Kendra, you just, it sounds like y'all just pulled out all the stops and had everything come together. And I can see, just in, sitting here listening and watching on the video Todd tell the story, I can see his excitement for this moment. What from your perspective, how did this guy from Michigan react to getting the full Georgia turkey hunting experience?
At first, I think that he thought, we might see a bird or something. And then all of a sudden, whenever, that Tom starts strutting down through there, he's like, oh, this is going to happen.
Yeah.
I was like, once the bird cleared, remember there was a big feeder or something that was out in the field. Once he got around that feeder, I thought it's going to happen. No pressure. I didn't feel nerves at all on that. But when he shot, and I first thing I did was like, yes, and I turned and looked at him. We bumped fists. I could tell he was proud and excited over that we had accomplished it, and then we got it on film.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Yeah,
perfect film. It's perfect footage. Yeah. I said to Heather watching my reaction, I go, that was almost as close as my reaction to when Tala shot her first buck this past fall. I wasn't holding the camera, and the camera wasn't going all over the place.
I couldn't tell which one of us was more excited because it was almost like as if I had shot the bird myself. I mean, it was just I was pumped, you know.
Yeah.
I was happy to see him get a bird.
And then Kendra says to me after, I was praying so hard for you last night and this morning. It happened. It happened.
I was praying for myself. I was like, God, let me call him in a bird.
Let's get this done. Yeah. That's awesome. So I guess it's safe to say that that mom is still better than son at calling at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now he's not going to admit that.
I know he's not. I know he listens to the podcast, so I'm messing with him a little bit there.
The record proves. That's funny. I told him yesterday. I said, "Hey, I'm going to do a podcast." He goes, "They don't want me." I was like, "No, I called the bird in."
I called the bird in.
Because when Aaron shot his bird, Ethan was over by us.
Yeah.
Oh, no kidding.
I was like, "You just coming to see what Mom and Todd did." It's like Aaron got his own bird.
Wow.
So
that's fun.
yeah, so after the shot, I don't know, 5 minutes later, not even 5 minutes later, here comes Ethan and his daughter to come and see what he had done and see the bird that we had shot, that sort of thing. So then Kendra and Ethan were going back and forth on, the technique she used and that sort of thing. And so Ethan goes, okay, I'm going to go back and hook up with Aaron. I know we had some that were gobbling around us. I'm going to go call them in, see if we can get a crack at it. But give me about 15 minutes, and then you guys can just clear out. And he took, I don't know, 10 steps maybe from us, and all of a sudden, bam!
The look on his face was priceless when he turned around and looked like, well, I guess I'm not needed.
Yep.
That's awesome.
It's funny because Ethan had called me whenever me and Todd were standing there looking at his bird, and he said, "Are you gobbling or are you calling right now?" I was like, "No." He said, "That's not you calling." I was like, "No." I said, "We're looking at Todd's bird." I said, "Did you not hear a shoot?" He goes, "Yeah, but are you not calling, messing with me right now?" I was like, "No, it's not me." So, there were turkeys responding to Aaron, and Ethan thought it was me calling, messing with him. I was like, "No, that's not me." I said, "We're looking at a bird right now."
So what kind of, Todd and you both have mentioned it a few times, what kind of calls and what kind of techniques are you using? I know there's probably some avid turkey hunters that are listening to the podcast that might be curious if it's not classified, if you're willing to share your secrets.
I had a Primos makes a crystal call, and I've used that thing for years. And the reason I had bought it years ago was they claimed it made like 10,000 hertz. It was loud, that it would project. And so I had that out with me because I knew it would penetrate the wind. And then I had a Woodhaven diaphragm call. I can't remember. I think it's called Black Death. It's so I was using it. It's a triple reed call. And I had a Woodhaven mahogany crystal call. And so I was kind of going back and forth with the two crystal calls, the pot calls, friction calls. But I always keep a diaphragm call with me at all times. But so I would, to make it sound like it's more than one hand, I'll use the diaphragm call at the same time I'm using my crystal or my pot calls. And I'll sometimes switch between them because a turkey they'll get used to a call if it's the same one used over and over. I mean, they'll predict it that it's like, this is somebody. So I try to transition back and forth from different calls to kind of throw them off to make them think that it's, actual turkeys they're hearing.
Mm-hmm.
But let's see. That was the only 3 calls I used that whole day was those. And I would just go through, kind of yelps, kind of build it up like a hen's looking for a tom, and then maybe another hen's coming in too. They'll think, a group of hens has got together. And so to entice that tom a little bit more, make him think, well, there's more than one hen.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll use my voice because I can do it with my voice too. I just can't project that loud.
And that's what she was telling me. She was using one of her calls particular because it was blowing so hard, and the sound would carry further. And so that was your scratch call, I think, right?
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
the crystal
The
call.
crystal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Primo smokes. Yeah.
And I told Kendra after I shot that, I go, I've never had, now granted I've only been hunting turkeys for a few years now because like I said, I'm always busy coaching. I just retired from coaching after 29 years as a varsity coach. And so now my focus is clearly on officiating. And so when I get back, I'm going to be busy officiating, varsity baseball games. And so it's hard for me to get out. But when COVID came, that's when I really started focusing more on turkeys. And I've never seen a turkey respond to a decoy. I've seen them come out in the field, take a look, and then booger off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I figured it was operator error when I had the calls out. I just have a box call, Primo's box call. But one thing I learned from Kendra is when she started her calling, she would start really soft. And then, like she said, build up, starts really soft. And then in succession, eventually she builds right up. Whereas me, I get that box out and I think I'm at like a Motley Crue or Guns N' Roses concert and I'm just, I'm blasting away, but I realize that's not the trick.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to build up, and then to make a tom gobble most times for me, sometimes you can do just to soften you up, but if you're not getting any response from them, if you can build it up there high to like when you start throwing in like the cackles and the cuts and you project that out, they just can't help it. They'll respond back most of the time.
Yeah.
But I'll bring it back down. And as soon as one gobbles, I'll shut up, and I'll wait. And if he doesn't throw another gobble out, I may, call again to see if he's still coming. But if I'm not calling it out and he throws a gobble out, I'll hit a few calls like, hey, I'm here. I'm still here. Don't misdirect.
Yeah.
One thing that I'm going to try in Michigan this year is, so I shot a bird during COVID. The first day I was out, like I said, just calling like crazy. And I had toms gobbling at me, but they wouldn't show face, And so I remember the second day I went out, I thought, you know what? I'm not bringing decoys, not bringing calls, not bringing anything. The stand I sat in just so happened to have an owl above me hooting. And I had a tom come right to that owl. Every time he hooted, he would gobble. Hoot, gobble, hoot, gobble. He came right in on me and I ended up getting a shot on him.
Yeah. That's
So
what I was telling you that in the South, that's how we'll locate them a lot of times is owl hooting.
And so I ended up getting a Primo's owl call that I'm going to try this year and see if that works any at all.
Yeah.
So I've been getting turkeys on my camera, so we'll see what happens when we get back. So.
Yeah. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So Todd, go ahead.
I was
Kendra.
telling Todd that a lot of my calling I learned from old cassette tapes of Ben Lee back in the day.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So Todd, 10 out of 10 would recommend hunting with Kendra?
Oh, 10, easily, 10 plus. I mean, you guys could probably hire her to call for it. I mean, she told me that she's for hire, so we can get down to Texas. Hey, we get down to Texas there and go after some Rios.
There you go.
How's that?
Just call BR549.
Yeah. Maybe Kendra's the ticket to getting some turkeys to come back on Texas dirt. We're a little barren at the moment, so.
Hey, I some Texas turkeys.
I told some of our staffers a story of hunting with Kendra, and I got some staffers all fired up about going after the Grand Slam now.
That'd be cool.
Like, we've got to have Kendra after us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
looks.
that's on my bucket list, the Grand Slam.
I bet that we could. I bet that we could get a Grand Slam tour going on at one of these seasons at some point, because there's enough folks around with us now that we can make it happen. So
Yeah.
For sure.
that'd be pretty cool.
So, funny story, side note, when Kendra and I got set up at the first hunting stand, our hunting stand was we sit on the ground and our backs against the trees. That's really what it was. And after it stopped raining and stuff, I texted Andy and said, hey, because Andy was supposed to go to Nebraska on a turkey hunt. I go, are you out at Nebraska yet? He texts back, yep, got here at 6 o'clock last night. Beautiful day. It was about 60, 70 degrees out here. We spent the evening out scouting. Awesome night. Today, getting my butt handed to me. I'm like, what? He said it was like 20 degrees with a wind chill. The snow was
man.
blowing sideways.
I figured it was cold because when he sent those pictures, he looked like he was all bundled up. So
Yeah.
he did get a bird finally. So we'll have to do a podcast with him. But
So then I go to him. I go, well, Kendra and I just got settled. It's about 80 degrees. It stopped raining. Right? I go, actually, I think I'm kind of sweating a little bit.
he's probably cussing you out.
Yeah, exactly. So when I got my bird, I texted him like, "Hey, bird down." He texts right back, "Hey, I just put a bird down too."
No kidding. Same time. That's awesome.
About the same time. Yep. Mm-hmm. He actually put a Merriam down.
Yeah.
So
That's
yeah.
awesome.
So he's got the Eastern and Merriam.
Good for him. Very cool.
So that's what I said. He's talking about wanting to look into, maybe we can get together with Tyler Topping, who actually at the same time, because we kind of went through a streak there where we had like 3 birds down in 3 days. So I thought, here we go, deer season all over again.
Yeah.
The tricky part with turkey season is because the seasons are so staggered across the United States that it's hard to go consecutive days. You know what I mean? So if I were at home, for example, it's not even turkey season yet at home.
Yeah.
So we don't start until I think April 22nd, and we go till I believe June 6th this year.
Yeah.
And so Kendra, Georgia, they're done May 15th.
Yeah.
So
I think.
So their season will be done almost a month before ours wraps up. So just because they're so staggered, it's gonna be hard to go consecutive days. But
Tyler, going to Todd's.
Yeah, there you
When
go.
our season's over,
Come on up.
I'm going
Come
to
on up.
Michigan.
So so Tyler started us off with a nice was it Oskaloosa?
Osceola.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm thinking Louisiana, I guess. Lake. Yeah.
Yeah.
Osceola, and he actually got 2. He's got 2 Osceolas now.
Yeah, he's doing pretty good down there in Florida. So,
So yeah, Andy's all set on. We need to schedule a trip with Tyler down in Florida to get an Osceola.
Yeah, like I said, we can make it happen. So Kendra, where you and Todd you're still a team in the turkey hunt competition. So what's it look like for you bagging your bird and filling your tag?
Oh, it won't be a problem.
It won't be a problem. Spoken with confidence. I like it.
It won't be a problem.
Unless Ethan's calling birds offer.
I'll flatten his tires before.
I'll flatten his tires. This is a competitive family. Well, that's awesome. Well, I know we're getting close to our time here this evening, but I wanted to touch just because we've mentioned it a few times, not in great detail, and I won't go in super great detail because it's on our website, but just for our listeners, as we've talked about with this turkey hunt competition that Todd and Kendra teamed up with, it's a competition that we're hosting here at Fall Obsession. You can hunt from anywhere in the United States. Registration is also still open for the 2023 season, so as long as you haven't killed your bird yet, you can go online, register either as an individual or as a team like Todd and Kendra did. So we add that individual element this year. So for those that might not have the opportunity to hunt with a team member, they can still compete solo. So you can head to fallobsession.com. You can see all of the rules and regulations. You can see how we score birds, determine winners. The best part is that there's cash prizes for our winners. And it's based off the entry fee. So the more people that we get to sign up and register, either as individuals or as teams, the bigger that these cash pots that the winners are going to get are going to grow, and the bigger payout for first, second, and third place. So all the other details are at fallobsession.com. When you go to the webpage, there should be a pop-up that hits you pretty quick there. That'll take you to the page, and then there's a banner across the top of every page with a link that you guys can go to visit that part of the website and then register from there. So just want to plug that real quick. That way, if anybody's interested, it doesn't cost a lot of money either to register. So it's opportunity to participate in a cool thing, again, from anywhere in the United States. So awesome
Friendly competition, and obviously you can see other types of competitions can come from it with Kendra and Ethan. And
Yeah, exactly. No, yeah, you can get competitive. You can compete with or against your buddy or your family member, whatever the case might be. And then the other thing that we're trying to be advocates for, I know Andy, who we've already spoken about, he's, I believe, planning on signing up as a team with his son and doing a father-son team. So if you have that family dynamic going on as well, and you wanna make it a family thing to compete together, do that. I believe our 2021 winners of the competition was a father-son duo, with the son being a youth hunter. So it's a pretty cool element there. So.
Yeah.
And then the other part of it is, like Aaron, when Aaron came out, that was the first bird he's ever shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you get extra points if you're a first time bird, you know, it's his first time harvesting a bird. And so so Kendra will have to tell a story, but he shot a bird, would you say 20 years ago, and it flew off. So they never found it.
Yeah, they never found it. I don't even know if he got pellets near it, but he shot towards it.
Shot towards it, yeah.
He was still learning. It's funny because Ethan told me today he was getting messages from Aaron, which he lives in South Carolina, and he said he's been scouting. Said he's never seen turkey tracks or turkey sign or turkeys or anything, and so he's in South Carolina and he's went on this WMA looking. He's finding turkey tracks. He's finding turkeys. I said, oh, he's become a big turkey hunter now.
Yeah, he's getting into it now.
That's kind of what I did during COVID. I shot that turkey and I thought, man, this is so much fun. It's just like deer hunting, and it's just like deer hunting.
Yeah,
I thought.
Yeah, it definitely will get you hooked for sure once you get a little taste of it. So. Well, guys, I appreciate y'all coming on, but before we wrap it up, Kendra, this is your very first time on Fall Session Podcast with us. We got a couple questions we like to hit our first time guests with before we hang it up. The first one being, just real quick, tell us about your favorite hunting memory and why.
It would probably be with my my dog. I had a blue heeler. He passed away this past year, and he used to hunt. He used to work with me all the time. He's a really good trained blue heeler, and I was always told that if I took him turkey hunting with me, that I wasn't going to be able to kill a bird, that I would never, do that with the dog with me. I took him on the third try. We were going across the field, and I spotted some turkeys, and his name's Colt, and I said, Colt, got to get down, lay down. We crawled across this field, circled them, set up, called the bird in, and I killed the tom with his assistance because I couldn't tell which direction once I circled him. When he gobbled, I couldn't tell which direction, and my dog would take his head and turn.
Oh, wow.
Like a radar, and he'd pick up which direction. And so when the tom got close, I said, because I had to have him on a leash, I was on public land. I had a camouflage shirt on him, and I looked at him, and I said, you got to sit, stay. And I said, lay all the way down. He hunkered down on the ground. And so when the bird got close enough, I shot. And Colt jumped straight up, spun around circle, and landed on his feet. And he looked at me like, "What'd we do?" And I took him out to the bird, and he was excited, and he wanted to do it again.
That is awesome. I've never heard of such. Wow.
Yeah, that's the only time I've ever done that.
That's awesome. That's a good dog right there.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Well, the other question I got for you is, what is your top bucket list hunt that you have not gotten to do yet, or one of them?
Top bucket list. That would probably be, I wanted to say the Grand Slam on the turkeys, but I've always wanted to go out west and hunt, whitetails or elk.
Yeah.
That's on my bucket list, to go out west.
I feel like for many of us, that myself included, that have not got to experience like elk hunting or deer hunting in that environment, that's always in the top 3 somewhere, it seems like, for sure, for most folks.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. Hopefully sooner rather than later for you, for all of us. So
yeah,
that'd be cool. Well, guys, I appreciate y'all coming on the podcast with us this evening. Todd, join us again. Kendra, join us for the first time. I'm sure it won't be the last time either. We'll have to get Ethan on here with you at some point and talk about that competitive family dynamic you keep referencing. So, but for our listeners, thank y'all for listening to another Fall Obsession podcast episode. If you have not already, be sure you like, follow, subscribe, turn your notifications on, all that good stuff on all of our social media platforms, as well as whatever podcast platform you are listening on. We are on all major podcast apps, as well as our episodes can be found on our YouTube channel, Waypoint TV and Carbon TV. Carbon TV also features a couple of our other shows, our Texas Dirt series down here, the Whitetail Management series that Nick and I run down here in Texas, and then our Couch Chats, which we're kind of revamping up this year a little bit more. That's on Carbon TV as well, just some wholesome conversations that our staff goes out and has either with each other or with other just blue-collar hunters and outdoors, men and women out there in the world. So check that out. We have another series coming to Carbon TV called Midwest Mindset, which is going to be a habitat improvement series that our staffer Michael Teepee is doing up there in Michigan and Indiana. So it's going to be a really, really awesome series. We should have episodes starting to drop for that here in a couple weeks. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Go Wild, and yes, TikTok. We are on TikTok now, unfortunately, but it's also pretty cool. We're doing good things with it. So Fall Obsession Media is the handle on TikTok. Go check us out on there and subscribe to the other socials. FallObsession.com is a website. That's where you can go to find all of our content. We cover a variety, hundreds of topics at this point in the hunting and outdoor industry, relevant to places all over the country, wherever you hunt. So all of our video series, our podcasts, our educational articles, both Todd and Kendra have written some of our pieces that are on fallobsession.com right there. And then wild game recipes, our apparel, all that stuff is there on fallobsession.com. If you're interested in joining our staff and becoming part of the team, you can also go on there and check out our staff programs and kind of how all that's structured. And if it's something that intrigues you, there's a form you can fill out, and that'll put you in touch with Todd, who will start the process and get the ball rolling for you. And also, if you're interested in being a partner with Fall Obsession, partner in your own brand or your own pro shop, or even being a podcast sponsor, we have those opportunities available. You can also find that from the website. Finally, I know I've been going for a while tonight, but Ridge Rock Hunt Company is the podcast partner. Derek and Lacey over there in Mississippi, they book hunts with vetted outfitters across the country. So if you are looking to book that once-in-a-lifetime experience with a vetted outfitter, give Derek a call. He'll work with you on timeline, licensing, pricing, location, all that good stuff. He's super easy to talk to and get to know. They're good folks. So Ridge Rock Hunt Company, go check them out. Facebook, Instagram, and on their website. Guys, thank you all again very much. Appreciate y'all taking some time to come on the podcast.
Absolutely.
All right, guys.
Always a good time, son.
Always a good time. Stay obsessed. Love
Stay
our Fall
obsessed.
Obsession family.
Stay obsessed.
All right, guys. Thank y'all for listening. We're back next Monday, as always, for another episode. We'll catch you then.